In this video, I'd like to talk a little bit about vocal blending. In other words, getting your voice to sound good with the music, whether that music's a backing track or a band, to help you blend in. And it's really quite an advanced technique. And we have to get an understanding of what our voice is and what the other instruments and the other sounds that are going on are doing also. Now, when we think about singing over the top of a backing track, for example, sometimes our voice can just sit on top, and we try to sort of mix it and get the volumes right so it sounds like we're part of it. But no matter what we do, it sounds like we're singing over a backing track rather than we're actually part of the music. And there's a few things that we can do to help that. So to explain the process, I'm going to break down what the instruments are doing in a piece of music, and then you'll hopefully be able to see where your voice should be fitting and the kind of things you can do to help it fit. So if you listen to a piece of music and you sit between two stereo speakers, you'll often hear a bass line or some deep sounds. It might be a kick drum or a bass line, and that almost sounds like it's coming from the bottom of the speakers. So in other words, the bottom of the space. Now, when you hear things like distorted guitars, for example, if they're quite heavy and deep, they might be coming out from low down as well in a similar kind of place. Now, when we think about acoustic guitars or a piano, that tends to sit more in the middle. So we've got our low sounds and we've got our middle sounds, and then the higher sounds would be like, I don't know, a high violin or a flute or something, or cymbals, even drum cymbals, something there that's registering in the high end of the music. So when we're singing, we need to work out where our voice is supposed to be within that, and we can change the texture of our voice to match where it needs to be. So for example, if you're listening to a real heavy rock track, you'll hear lots of bass, lots of heavy guitar, lots of deep drums, and the middle and low end of the song in terms of instruments will be really full. Now, if you were to sing across that in quite a low, bassy, open-throated, yawny chest voice kind of way, then your voice was potentially going to get lost in that blend of instruments. And if you push the volume up to try and bring yourself out of that, then you will sound like you're just singing way above all the rest, and you won't actually blend with the music. So very often when you listen to rock singers in particular, you'll notice that they put a little bit of twang to their sound, or they sing very much in the higher register, and that helps them cut through and be in a different frequency range to the rest of the instruments that are going on in there. Now, there will be some crossover, and every piece of music is very different, and so you'll have to listen to each piece and sort of take it on its own merit and find out where you need to be. But as you listen to the piece of music, think, what other instruments are kind of in the range of my voice? What would happen if I made it slightly more twangy and lifted my voice slightly? What would happen if I made it slightly more boomy? For example, if you have a nice twinkling light piano, then it might be nice to have more resonance and more depth in your voice with an open throat to help you sit in a different place and give your voice room to be heard. Now, it's very often that people to be heard in a mix of music, whether it's live or on a recording, will push their volume up or down to try and make themselves heard. But it's really the frequency mixing that's going to really give you a very good understanding of how you can sound good. So if you've looked at my other videos, you'll have seen me mess around with the resonation cavities, the chest, the mouth and nose and the head. And that's where this stuff really comes into its own for an advanced singer, to help you to place your sound in the right way. So play around with your frequencies, and very often you'll find that what you're needing to do in order to blend with the music won't be necessarily what feels right. Now, to give you an example of that, on my YouTube channel, you may have already stumbled across a video of me performing a song at an event. It's a song called Cry to Me. It's an old song. And when I get to the higher end and the louder sections of that song, in order to cut through in the frequency range, so in other words, when we're talking about the high, middle or low, we're talking about the frequency. So high frequency is the high stuff, low frequency, the low stuff. In order to cut through there, what I actually did was made my voice very, very twangy, so it became tinny and high frequency. And as I was singing that, it almost felt like the sound I had was a bit like an angry duck. And if I was singing a cappella, I probably wouldn't have gone for that sound. But I chose that sound specifically to match the music I was singing to, and it cuts through and it works. Another example of that is when I made a recording of the Top Loader song, Dancing in the Moonlight. I had the main vocal, and I also had to sing a falsetto, very high part, which kind of duplicated what the main vocal was doing. Now, if I listen to the falsetto part on its own, to my ears, it just sounded a little bit strange because it was high frequency, and I don't like listening to my voice in that particular way. But I was hitting the notes in the right time, the right order, but on its own, it didn't work. When it was put together with the other vocal and the rest of the track, suddenly everything fell into place, and it worked just right. So don't be afraid to actually take yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit when you're trying to find a good blend, and really take into consideration that your voice is an instrument. It's an instrument as part of the track, so you need to make sure that it matches and it fits in nicely. You know, if you're doing a nice romantic piece of piano music and you've got some nice warm strings and those two match together perfectly, you wouldn't suddenly put the bagpipes or a big trumpet in there, because that would just, you know, not work. You might be playing the right notes at the right time, but it's just not going to work musically. So think about your voice in that way. My voice is an instrument, it needs a particular tone, I need to tweak it slightly to help it blend with the music. So if you need clarification on what these resonation areas are, or what you can do in order to start changing up your voice, please have a look at my other videos that are on YouTube. There's lots of information there to help you start taking your voice in the direction you want to. So I hope that's been useful for you. Please click subscribe to stay up to date with the videos, and check back soon for more.